All right. Welcome back to Eyes Open Media. I hope you guys are doing well. This is Prophet John, and I haven't done a video in a while, and I wanted to do this video because ESPN has been promoting and premiering The Last Dance, which was the '96 season. Which was it 90? No, the '98. I think it was the '98 last season. Yeah, the last season. That's why it's called The Last Dance. So the last season for the Bulls championship run of their second three-peat. Um, and so that was the 90, that was the 97, 98 season, I believe, right? Yeah, it was 97, 98 season. Because then, was it? Let me see. Was it the 90? Hold up, 95, 90, the Bulls won 96. 95, 96 was the Bulls. 96, 97, 97, 98. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, because and then in between the Bulls three-peat, the Houston Rockets won two championships. I remember they beat Orlando, and then they beat which I was freaking pissed off. And then they beat I can't remember. They beat somebody else, the Indiana Pacers or something like that. New York Knicks, maybe. I think it was the Knicks. Was it the Knicks or the Pacers? I think it was the Knicks. I can't remember if it was the Knicks or the Pacers. So yeah. Oh yeah, I think it was the Knicks because John. I think it was the Knicks because John Starks went like 2 for 15, and so they choked. But anyways, I wanted to do this video because everybody's talking about Scottie Pippen and how he didn't get paid or how he signed a bad contract. Michael Jordan also signed a bad contract as well for his first 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. His contract was bad as well. It wasn't as bad as Pippen's, but it was bad as well for that time, and who Michael Jordan was. But people didn't really complain because Jordan was making so much money off the court that he didn't really. It wasn't that big of a deal. And then Jordan, of course, in the end, started to get a massive amount of money in endorsements, and then his contract started to go way up as well at the end. Same thing with Pippen, though. But Pippen signed a 7-year, $19 million deal, and so he was one of the worst paid players within that first 7 years. But I think he played 13 years, Scottie Pippen. So it was either 13 or 14 years, something like that. And so his last 6, 7 years, he got paid. He made a lot of money. I think his first 7 years, you make he made like what 19, 20, 50, maybe 53. I don't know what it was. I'm not sure, $23 million or something like that. Okay. Um, he didn't make much. Um, or was it the first? Or was that a 6 year deal? I'm not sure if it was a 6 year deal or a I don't know, if it was a 5 year deal or 6 year deal, but Scotty didn't make much, okay, in his first years, first 9 years, I guess, and then his last, I think he made 50. I think I made a post about that, or I posted it on Twitter. I remember posting something about that. Like Scotty made like 53 million in his first 9 years or something like that, and then his last like 5 years he made 55 million, so it was something like that. But it's crazy. But here's the thing. Yes, Scotty signed that contract. Okay, so we can't really be mad at Scotty Pippen for his financial difficulties because he signed that contract. Matter of fact, the owner and general manager, I think it was the owner, saying, "I don't think you should sign this contract." I mean, they were even warning him it was really a low ball contract. You might want. I mean, what happened to his agent? Anybody talking about Scottie Pippen's agent? And where was his agent at? Why would his agent allow him to sign that type of deal, knowing it was a terrible deal for Scottie Pippen, knowing that he was ascending and becoming an all star? Right. So why would you have your guy trapped in that type of deal, knowing that he's becoming an all star and he's the second best player on the team and he's all defensive player? So instead of we might not want to look at Scottie Pippen so much. We might want to look at the agent and say, what were you doing? What were you thinking? Number one, isn't your job to create money, wealth for your player, right? But at the same time, um, People are saying, man, Scottie didn't get paid. Scottie got robbed, whatever. Scottie still made about $100 million. Okay, so his first like 8, 9 years, he made 40 something, 50 something million. In his last like 5, 4 or whatever, 4 or 5 years, he made big money. He made big money going to Houston Rockets. Remember, he played for the Houston Rockets, and then he played for the Portland Blazers, Trailblazers. Remember, and they almost beat the Lakers, right, to go to the finals, and Lakers won in Game 7 with a comeback. Okay, so I remember that alley oop. Kobe Bryant crossed over Scottie Pippen, and then he threw the ball up to Shaq, and Shaq dunked it, and then that was basically the end of the game. Right? And that was basically the end of Scottie Pippen, you know. Um, but Scottie made a lot of 50 million, like 54 million in like 3 years, 3 4 years in his end at the end there. So Scottie made his money back. He made about $100 million, okay, in his contracts. So even though he signed that bad contract, he still made about $100 million. Okay, so or close to $100 million. All right, so or I think maybe 90, 95, somewhere around there, 100 million, somewhere around there. He still made a lot of money. Okay, so even if let's say Scotty made $80 million, that's still a lot of money. Like people are out here talking about, man, Scotty couldn't eat. Scotty couldn't eat and stuff. Scotty was the most underpaid player in the history of the NBA for his being in the top 50 greatest players of all time. I get that part, but still, Scotty had endorsements. Scotty had a shoe deal. Scotty had a shoe deal. He had endorsements. He had other money on the side. So even if he did make $90 million in the NBA only, right, for Scottie Pippen, instead of making 300 million or 190 million, and he only made 80, 90 million, he still had endorsement deals. He still had a shoe. He still had other things that he could do. Now remember, during this time, you're talking about the dot com. This is the dot com era. Internet starting to go. This is, we're talking about, the 98 season here, right? So the 97, 98 season, you're talking about the internet. You're talking about AOL and Microsoft. Why didn't his advisors and his family, tell him to, take 10% of that money and put it into the dot com bubble. I mean, the dot com era here. AOL and Microsoft and Apple and things like that. These things were starting to come onto the scene around that time, right? The internet era. I mean, he could have. Why didn't Scottie Pippen buy ScottiePippen.com and make $3 million off of it, or buy a website? These things were exploding during that time, all the way until about in 2005, and then the dot com bubble really bursted, right? But you know what I mean? So like this was a time of like great wealth in America. So why didn't Scottie Pippen put his money, even though he was only making a little bit, $2, $3 million a year, or whatever the case may be? Why didn't he take 10, 20% of that and put it into stocks and and investments? Why didn't he invest in companies in the dot com era? He acted like he was gonna be able to just like the NBA contract was it. You know what I mean? Now he did have a shoe, right? He did have a shoe that had the big air on it. That the black shoe with or the white ones with and it had the letters Air, AIR on it. That was a Scotty. I think those were just Scotty Pippins, right? Um, and people bought those. A lot of people had those shoes in in school, right? People had those shoes in school. If you were in college at that time, or high school, or middle school, or elementary school, people had those shoes. I even saw the baby version of them. Yeah, little kindergartens. People in kindergarten had those shoes, right? The Airs. And so I know he made money off of those. He had to at least make $20 million off those shoes because they were everywhere, and they're still selling. I think they're still selling today. So does he make any money off of those shoes? He probably doesn't because his contracts were so bad. Like he probably doesn't even make any money off those shoes. And you know what I mean? Like his own shoes, he don't even make any money off of, right? He probably makes 3%. Like he doesn't nothing, right? So it's terrible, man. But and this goes to show you that guys and girls, man, when you're doing business, man, make sure you're represented properly and make sure you get the right deal or walk away. Like Scottie Pippen could have easily walked away from that deal and said, I'm not doing that. You got to come up with the money. You got to give me 7 years, 35 million, or 7 years, 40 million. I'm not walking back on that court unless I get 7 years, 40 million, or something like that, right? And but Scottie Pippen just went ahead and signed the deal. Everybody told him don't sign this deal, and he still went and signed the deal. Now he, like I said before, his last 3, 4 years in the NBA, he made a ton of money. Right, he made 50 something million dollars. So he made a lot of that money back that he lost. Okay, but he still made way less money than a lot of people in the top 50 greatest players of all time. But at the same time, he did come up in the .com era, man, where he could have put some of that money into a lot of some of these Silicon Valley companies. He had the plug right next to him, Michael Jordan. That's why I'm using this picture because Michael Jordan is sitting right next to him. And so, why didn't Scottie Pippen use Michael Jordan? Maybe he used Jordan for this shoe deal, but why didn't he use him for other things? Why Scottie Pippen didn't use Michael Jordan for the .com era? You know, so I mean, it's kind of weird, Michael had the connects in Silicon Valley and all the and Oregon and for Nike campus and all that stuff. Scottie Pippen should have made a lot more money than he did, but he just didn't. He just didn't know business. Business wasn't it, and that's the thing about a lot of these NBA players. They just don't know business. Now, Shaq did it correctly because Shaq came into the league and his father told him, "Hey, look, don't even spend a dime of your contract money. Spend your endorsement money." And so that's what Shaq did. Shaq didn't spend a dime of his contract money. All the money that Shaq spent to buy his houses and all that stuff was his endorsement money. Okay, so that's something that these players can do. Today's players that are making 20, 30 million a year in the NBA, some of them are the average players making 10 million a year in the NBA, right? So you can, and then you have endorsements. You have signature. Most these people have signature shoes, and so you can use the money of your endorsements, not your contract, right? Your contract money is the money you're gonna pass down. It's gonna be retirement money you pass down to your children, you know and you can earn dividends off of that and things like that, and then your endorsement money is the one you have fun with. Okay, different streams of income. All right. And so I'm kind of weird. It's kind of weird that people are like, man, Scottie did this. Scottie didn't have any money. Scottie was broke. You know how long it takes to make $100 million. Like Scottie Pippen made $100 million on and off the court combined. He probably made $150 million in his playing time on and off the court combined. And you know how long it takes to make $150 million for an average normal person? I mean, you might have to go back literally 60 generations. like you might have to go back to 1300 and then add up everybody in your DNA down in lineage, your ancestors, to make up $100 million in income worth from 1300s till now. And people are saying that Scottie Pippen, so they're so sad about Scottie Pippen and him not making any money. It's unbelievable, you know. It doesn't really matter how much money you make if you don't know what to do with your money. If you don't make your money work for you, then you're always going to be working, right? If you don't know how to let your money work for you, you're always going to be working. So, what I'm going to be doing on Patreon after the RV and after the RV happens and things like that, we're going to be focusing on cryptocurrency dividends and also stock dividend stocks. Okay, some of those things where you can put your money in and they give you free shares, which are called dividends, or free cryptos, which are called dividends. Like right now, a lot of us are in Tezos, and that pays you. The Tezo pays you out like every 2 days, 3 days, and some bakers pay out 4 days, every 4 days. Okay, so people are earning just the staking, having your money in Tezos. People are making money. Free money is coming in because those are dividend payments, right, off your staking. That is how you make your money work for you. Okay, so some of you guys that got into Teslas on my bicycle at 60 cents, loaded the crap out of it, and you're now, because of that, you're earning, Teslas are sitting around like $2.83 right now, somewhere around that price, 270 to $3 range. So some of you guys are earning, not only did you earn on the way up, right, from your initial investment, but you're earning on the staking. Okay, so you're earning on the staking. Some of you guys are earning $20 every 2 days, 3 days. Some of you guys are earning $50 every. Some of you guys are earning $5 every 2 days, every 3 days, every 4 days, all depending on your baker. Okay, some of you guys are earning $1.50, $2 every time, but it's your money is working for you, and that's what we need to understand. Okay, we have to have our money working for us. Okay, our money can't just die. It can't just die in an investment. It needs to be working for us. Okay, so that's what we're going to do after the RV on Patreon, Currency 365. We're going to be looking at the cryptos that give out the dividends, the monthly dividends or the quarterly dividends and things like that, and also the stocks that do the same thing, that give out the dividends every quarter, or maybe even every month. There might be some stocks that do that every month as well. I don't know, but you got to have your money working for you. Okay. Yeah, and so there you go. All right. Of course, you have your gold and your silver and things like that as well, but you also want income coming in and your money working for you, and that's what Scottie Pippen should have done. He should have had his money working for him. All right. So, anyways, that's it. Peace out. God bless, and learn from Scottie Pippen. Learn from the mistakes from the people from the past, and know that that you can make the same mistake if you don't learn from history. All right. So, peace out. God bless. Eyes open.